तो वेलकम बैक टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ अर्जुना's पीस ऑफ माइंड। आज हमारे साथ हैं बहुत ही यंग एक ऐसे एंटरप्रेन्योर जिनसे आई थिंक पूरे देश को इंस्पिरेशन लेनी चाहिए। लेट्स वेलकम ऑन टुडेस कॉन्वर्सेशन मिस्टर आयुष जायसवाल, हु इज द फाउंडर ऑफ पेस्टो टेक। और आज हम इनसे बात करेंगे कि इतनी छोटी सी उम्र में इतना बड़ा तहलका कैसे गाड़ दिया भाई ने। तो ये थोड़ा समझने की कोशिश करते हैं। आई वांट टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग कि कैसा था आपका बचपन, हाउ वाज योर चाइल्डहुड, स्कूल में कैसे थे आप? बहुत इंटेलिजेंट बच्चे थे कि शैतान थे कि पढ़ाई में कमजोर थे कि क्या थे?
या नहीं यार, पहली बात तो आई थिंक जितने भी फाउंडर्स होते हैं ना, लाइक इफ यू एंड अप स्टार्टिंग अ कंपनी एंड बाय मिस्टेक इफ यू डू इट व्हेन यू वर 19, then you know, nobody will ever let you grow up. So we always have people who are forever 19.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been 19 for more than half a decade now. But yeah, I think यार बचपन में ना, I've been like just another guy. I have definitely been curious, but nothing out of the ordinary, yaar, um, for sure.
अच्छा,
But I
मतलब
definitely got attracted to computers a lot earlier than
अमेजिंग।
most people do.
वेयर डिड यू डू योर स्कूलिंग फ्रॉम?
I am from Varanasi,
ओह
so I did
वाओ।
my schooling from Sunbeam in back in Varanasi, and yeah, I think that was the lucky thing, yeah, because I think Sunbeam had this philosophy around technology, and I got a lot of freedom. So I got into sort of coding and a lot of other things after the iPhone launch and all that in back into 2007 and 8. And yeah, I got a lot of exposure, and also a lot of privileges to skip classes, and so yeah, rarely attended my classes. And
बट ये प्रिविलेज क्यों मिला था?
यार मतलब एज अ किड आपके लिए सबसे बड़ी चीज क्या होती है? अवार्ड जीतना, राइट? So you end up participating in a bunch of competitions,
करेक्ट।
and if you win awards, and then like what matters is whether you're scoring well in your academics or not. So I was like decent. I was not the greatest. I was not the worst. But I was decent, like right, 80% kind of guy. Um, so yeah, my teachers were pretty open-minded, and they allowed me to skip classes.
अमेजिंग। ऐसे ऐसे मैंने भी काफी क्लासेस स्किप की थी अपने टाइम पे, बट उससे मेरी पढ़ाई पे बहुत
बढ़िया.
असर पड़ा था क्योंकि आई यूज्ड टू बी द म्यूजिशियन ऑफ द स्कूल एंड रिप्रेजेंट करता था स्कूल को,
Of
ट्रॉफीज लेके
course.
आता था। तो मुझे
Yeah.
लगता था कि हाँ पास भी कर देंगे, जब तक स्कूल के हाथ में पावर है तब तक तो पास हो जाओगे। लेकिन जैसे ही बोर्ड एग्जाम्स, फिर वहां पे तो मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, जाहिर सी बात है। बट आई गेट इट
बिल्कुल.
कि बट आप जैसे बोल रहे हो कि आई वाज अ डिसेंट स्टूडेंट, हाँ 80%, तो वो आई थिंक दैट इज अ जनरेशन गैप राइट नाउ दैट आई जो मुझे महसूस हो रहा है। क्योंकि हमारे टाइम पे हम बोलते थे डिसेंट यार 65 आ जाएंगे, 65% वाले डिसेंट होते थे, अभी 80 वाले डिसेंट हो गए हैं। नहीं, ऐसा मुझे लग
नहीं
रहा है।
नहीं यार, मतलब
टॉपर
ऐसे
होते हैं यार 80 वाले,
हमारे
हम
यहाँ
तो टॉपर ही
हमारे यहाँ
बोलते हैं।
5% बढ़ा के बताते हैं जनरली.
अच्छा फिर ठीक है। फिर मैं समझ गया, ये भावनाएं समझ गया मैं।
या
तो आयुष, आपने कब जिंदगी में, कब आपका इस वर्ड से पाला पड़ा एंटरप्रेन्योर? कब आपको पता लगा कि एट व्हाट एज डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड कि एक बिजनेस नाम की चीज होती है? क्योंकि जनरली क्या होता है ना, स्कूलिंग सिस्टम में भी ये होता है कि अच्छी पढ़ाई करो उसके बाद जॉब करो। सो हाउ डिड यू ब्रेक दैट लूप?
यार, आई थिंक आई गॉट अक्रॉस दिस लाइक बैक इन 2007 ओनली, जब आईफोन लॉन्च हुआ था. एंड लाइक थॉट प्रोसेस वाज वेरी सिंपल कि यार मुझे कंप्यूटर्स पे गेम खेलना है, एंड कंप्यूटर्स मम्मी पापा के रूम में था. दैट मीन्स
अच्छा।
वहां पर मुझे रहना पड़ेगा गेम खेलने के लिए, राइट?
हम्म।
व्हेन आईफोन गॉट लॉन्च, आई वाज लाइक यार ये तो हाथ में लेके कहीं भी जा सकते हैं गेम खेलने के लिए.
नेक्स्ट
So
लेवल चीज।
exactly, so I
हाँ
actually pushed my sister to get पहले एक आईपॉड आता था, वो आईफोन
हाँ,
होता था.
नॉब वाला जिसमें घूमता था ना वो।
करेक्ट, या वो
हाँ,
पूरा, नहीं नहीं, नॉब वाला नहीं, उसके बाद वाला पूरा
जो
स्क्रीन
आईफोन,
टच था.
अच्छा आईपॉड टच।
आईपॉड टच, या.
हाँ करेक्ट
सो मैं
करेक्ट।
अपनी दीदी को बोलता रहता था यार आपको ना आईपॉड टच लेने की जरूरत है. सो आई यूज्ड टू लाइक पुश हर टू गेट एन आईपॉड टच, ताकि मैं उस पर गेम खेल पाऊँ. सो आई थिंक वहां से एंट्री हुई, एंड आई वाज लाइक यार गेम खेलने में इंटरेस्ट है, एंड आई प्लेड लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ गेम्स बैक इन दोस डेज. एंड दैट्स हाउ आई गॉट इनटू कंप्यूटर्स. एंड जब आईफोन आया तो आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग मैगजीन्स वगैरह, सिलिकॉन वैली की वेबसाइट इधर उधर
वाह।
आप ढूंढने लगते हो, राइट? फिर आपको पता चलता है यार स्टीव जॉब्स कौन है. फिर जब कौन है पता चला तो फिर और पढ़ा, एंड देन it's a rabbit hole. When you
या
keep digging deeper, then he's something else, right? So back in those days, I got really inspired by everything which was happening back in Silicon Valley, and I just thought कि यार बहुत powerful चीज है ये कि आप फोन में इतना कुछ डाल रहे हो, the amount of possibilities which he talked about, I could really see that कि यार ये बहुत मस्त होगा. मतलब I couldn't really understand how companies work, etc., etc. But I was just excited कि यार I can use it and I can work on it, and that's how I started my journey. थोड़ा web development वगैरह से शुरू किया. Started designing websites and graphics के साथ खेलते थे. हाथी को चूहे में मिक्स कर दिया, एक नया जानवर बन गया. ऐसे weird चीजें करते रहते थे. But I think doing stuff like that, I got a lot of exposure, and then of course एक सिलसिला शुरू हो गया जहाँ पर स्कूल में अलग अलग कॉम्पिटिशन्स में जा रहे हैं. Anything which was related to a computer, I was say कि यार मेरा नाम डाल दो प्लीज. पावर पॉइंट बनाना मैं बनाऊंगा, वेबसाइट बनानी है बनाऊंगा, ब्राउजर बनाना है मैं बनाऊंगा. Anything that gets me in front of the screen. So I kept doing it for a few years, and then 10th में आने के बाद all the smart kids take science, all the middle one take commerce, and all the bad one take arts, right? So same story, same वो जो एक stereotype होता है, उसमें सारे फ्रेंड्स साइंस ले रहे हैं तो हम पीछे कैसे हटे भाई. हमने भी साइंस ले लिया, and got into the same race in which a million people run every year. But yeah, after that I started getting into more around engineering, क्या होती है and कैसे करते हैं and all of that. And मेरा thought process बहुत simple था कि यार engineering करेंगे, app बनाना चालू करेंगे. And next thing which I had my eye on was learning how to build apps, because websites बनाना आ गई थी. So I thought apps बनाते हैं. So ऐसे करते करते I think at some stage I started doing it for money. And when you're young and you know how to build websites and you make money, that's exciting, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how it started for me.
But it's interesting how एक innovation जो market में launch होती है, it inspires so many young minds. फॉर एग्जाम्पल जैसे आप स्टीव जॉब्स का भी एग्जाम्पल दे रहे हैं, तो डिड यू एवर एस्पायर कि जब वो सब देख के, वो जो चकाचौंध है कि वो सिलिकॉन वैली, एवरीवन वांट्स टू गो देयर, so did you ever want to be a part of that segment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a few years down the line, I was trying to do different things, tried building a bunch of different companies, and at some point I was like, screw it, I think it's high time. I just एक बार मैंने टिकट के पैसे इकट्ठा किए, booked one way ticket and just went there.
Okay. And then उसके बाद क्या हुआ फिर?
So यार वहां पर जाके ना बड़ी सारी अलग चीजें समझ आई, right? First of all, I was a software developer, right? So as a software developer, आप अपने करियर को बहुत differently देखते थे back in those days, right? Like 16, 17, you would really look at opportunities, and the opportunities were of course like there in sort of the internet, the number of startups which are coming up, very exciting time to be in the Indian ecosystem. But मेरी world थोड़ा limited था, right? Like my friends around and stuff like that, right? So we would think about what we can do in startups, and the amount of money I could make personally was not very exciting for me. So I thought कि यार चलते हैं US, थोड़ा सीख के आते हैं, थोड़ा सीखते हैं. So I thought कि यार वहाँ पे ना बहुत exciting लोग होंगे and
जीनियस बैठे होंगे. हाँ.
Exactly. But वहाँ पर जाने के बाद I was shocked कि यार there were really smart people, incredible people, of course, right? But then in order to exist in that ecosystem, आपको extraordinary होने की जरूरत नहीं है. I saw like an opportunity to get paid like $80,000-$100,000 very easily, right? And that was exciting because by taking a $1,000 flight, it used to be much cheaper back then. I just saw my value go 10x, right? So I was shocked. मतलब थोड़ा 2-3 महीने काम किया, थोड़ा मजा भी आया. But then I started thinking कि यार ऐसा ये क्यों है? Like by taking a flight, आपकी value इतनी ज़्यादा change कैसे हो सकती है? So I felt unfair कि यार मतलब मैं 5 साल से इतनी मेहनत कर रहा हूँ, and I've been doing pretty well in terms of working hard and looking at things, etc. So why did I not have these opportunities earlier? Right? So ये सारी चीजें थोड़ी थोड़ी हुई, and that kind of like pushed me in a direction where I would like go on to build something which solves for that. But that was like my first impression of Silicon Valley.
अमेजिंग। तो मोटा मोटा कितना वक्त आपने गुजारा होगा वहां पे?
Yeah, I went back there again last year, and I spent 1.5 साल again.
ओके। सो अभी जो आपका स्टार्टअप है जो पेस्टो, इट इज डूइंग रियली वेल, उसको उस आइडिया तक लाने के लिए कभी कभी, क्योंकि मैं भी ऐसे सोचता हूँ कि हम लोग भी वी कीप थिंकिंग, हर किसी में आजकल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप थोड़ी बहुत तो घुसी हुई है, तो व्हेन
Yeah,
यू आर थिंकिंग ऑफ आइडियाज, तो जब आप सोचते हो फिर आप रिसर्च करते हो तो वो ऑलरेडी हो रखा है, जो भी आप सोचते हो वो हो रखा है, जो भी आप सोचते हो, कोई नया आइडिया
yeah,
निकालना इतना मुश्किल हो रखा है।
yeah,
सो पेस्टो से पहले लाइक वाज देयर लाइक अ लिस्ट ऑफ आइडियाज दैट यू ऑलरेडी हैड, दैट यू हैड
yeah.
स्क्रैप्ड, या फिर सीधा आपको डायरेक्टली एक ही बार में ही आ गया कि ऐसा कुछ कंपनी बनाते हैं?
Yeah, Pesto se पहले, and this is something which I would say कि this is very common, and
हम्म।
this mistake which everybody out there makes, right? There's this narrative around you have to be innovative, you
हम्म।
have to build something out of the ordinary. Look, like Steve Jobs came from the
हम्म।
land of, Mark Zuckerberg came from that land, and we need to innovate and whatnot, right? Things like that. Um, so वो thought process होता था यार, that how do we build something which is, जैसा ना कभी किसी ने देखा हो ना सोचा हो, right? So आप वैसे ही सोचते हो, and that is the bare minimum for a lot of people कि यार मतलब कुछ extraordinary तो करना ही है, right? I would say that thought process is very wrong. Yeah. That's what I've learned over the years. So
हम्म।
शुरुआत में I used to think about those ideas कि यार कुछ नया करते हैं, कुछ ऐसा करते हैं which will happen in next few years, right? And in a way, I came across remote work back in 2017, and I believed in it, and I said,
हम्म।
yeah, this is the direction in which I want to be building, right? Um, and that was much earlier, right? Like I would say 3 years before it actually happened. Um, so yeah, आपको हमेशा कुछ extraordinary करने की पड़ी होती है. But the reality of the situation is that when you are saying I want to do something new, that involves a lot of hard work,
हम्म।
that involves you to get lucky, that involves on a lot of other factors like how is the market moving, so on and
Yep.
so forth, right? Which is not in your control. So it's much harder to build something which is completely out of the ordinary. And I feel when first time founders think about building a company, they should totally not try to do that. That's
हम्म।
exactly what not to do.
हम्म।
Try to come up with something in which you have to go through the product market fit journey from 0 to 1, and really do something which is out of the ordinary. And the reason I say that is because आप जब पहली कंपनी बनाते हो ना यार, तो आप कुछ प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर रहे सिर्फ,
हम्म।
आप ये भी सीख रहे हो कि कंपनी बनाते कैसे हैं,
हम्म।
right? You're learning how to build a company
कंपनी।
along with solving that problem, right? These are like two big experiments running at the same time, and the chances of your failure just increases multiple fold,
हम्म।
right? So I definitely feel that I was I did well in identifying the remote work trends and predicting what's going to happen over the next 5 years, and I was right in terms of what is going to happen, right? But did I end up making hundreds of millions? The answer is no, right? And the answer is no, because I could predict the market, I could see where things are moving, and I was right about the concept, but I did not know how to build a company.
हम्म। हम्म।
Period. Right. So I think learning the art of company building is a thing in itself, and first time founders really need to realize this. And as a first time founder, I'm like telling that that's like one mistake I made. I feel like I should have been more humble in recognizing this, and um, you know, um, yeah. So that's like one of the biggest learnings I would say
हम्म।
I had.
एंड ऑल्सो दिस इज व्हाट योर फर्स्ट स्टार्टअप आइडिया वाज, राइट? क्या
So
इससे पहले भी
first start,
आइडियाज थे?
बहुत सारे ideas there. I
अच्छा।
think I've tried things in food tech. I've
हम्म।
tried things in fintech. I did P2P lending back in the day. The laws were not supportive,
हम्म।
and things of that nature, right? So I tried doing a lot of things, but Pesto happened because I think it really came from a genuine problem which I
हम्म।
truly cared about, right? Like, you know, on your journey of building a company, a lot of times you will come across situations in which things won't be as rosy, right? You'll
Hmm.
go
Hmm.
through tough times, right? And if you truly don't care about something deeply enough, you will probably give up because it just doesn't make any financial sense for you
Hmm.
to keep going after it,
Yeah.
right? And you could do something else and create better outcome for yourself, right? So that's why I think it's very important to really truly deeply care about what you're working
Hmm.
on,
Hmm.
and that's what I found with Pesto, and yeah, I think that's what really keeps me going.
Amazing. जब भी हम कोई एक, जैसे अभी आपने बताया कि लॉट ऑफ पीपल जो स्टार्टअप का सोचते हैं उसमें यही दिमाग में भर देते हैं कि इनोवेटिव होना चाहिए, कुछ ऐसा होना चाहिए जो कभी देखा ना हो, कुछ ये होना चाहिए, कुछ होना चाहिए. बट डू यू थिंक कि इज इट द आइडिया दैट मैटर्स द मोस्ट, और इज इट द पर्सन हु इज बिहाइंड द आइडिया? इज इट द मैन और इज इट द कंपनी?
It's neither. Honestly, I think whoever is the man will evolve over time. If they don't evolve, they probably won't be successful. That's one, right? Like so, I would say the team which you end up building matters a lot more. And if you're asking which one matters more, it's definitely the people, right?
द
Because
पीपल.
ideas change overnight. You constantly keep iterating based on what's working, what's not working, right? So, वैसा यार. So I won't say that I can choose between the two. But I can definitely say that idea की जो value है ना, वो .com bubble days में हुआ करती होगी, right? When everybody was going after everything, right? Like if you look at companies, there was like a company for every simple thing, house.com, furniture.com, this, that. So that was the .com bubble in which everybody thought that life में जितनी भी problems है, उसका
हाँ,
एक
डॉट
.com
कॉम
version
बना
होगा,
दो.
जहाँ से सारी problems solve होंगी. But it didn't turn out like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think ideas का तो यार बहुत time चला गया है. But I won't say ideas don't matter. I think small ideas, innovating in every single thing matters. And without innovation, you just can't survive, right?
You can't
But
survive.
exactly. But trying to do something out of the ordinary, like coming up with an iPhone, for example, or a product which really is, you know,
Yeah.
it's really difficult. I mean, everybody should do that, and I would want to do that, but as a first time founder, it's just harder. And there's this interview by Chamat which I would recommend a lot of people to see. He just says just get the money. As a first time founder, somebody asked him what's your advice to a lot of first time founders, and maybe they asked for specifically in India as well when he was visiting here, and he mentioned that there is so much overhype around a lot of other things. There's so much noise. But as a first time founder, if you don't have resources to like really, start experimenting and really get your company off the ground and stuff like that, it's just really hard to be successful, right? So I think first up, focus on building a business. And if you can build a business and make money out of it, that'll help you with more fuel to build your next business. And you can
Yeah.
do like a lot more things, right? And of course, like not saying people should build multiple businesses. If you find something which you believe you want to stick to for next 20 years, great, stick to it.
Superb. Yeah, I think ये बहुत अच्छी राय है हर किसी के लिए जो एक बिजनेस स्टार्ट करना चाहता है. But coming back to your business, the startup that you did, at what age did you start this?
Back here, 19 or so. That's why I
तो
said कि
19
यार
साल की
6
उम्र
साल
में,
से 19
हाँ,
साल नहीं
19 साल की
है.
उम्र में, 19 साल की उम्र में you started your business, and how was the response of your friends and family?
Yeah, it was very different back then. Let's just say that, right? Like my family did not understand what starting up means, right? When I told them I'm looking to raise capital, then they're more scared than happy. They're like, okay, how does this work? Like,
Yeah.
do like what if you lose that money, right? Like, will you get in trouble and stuff like that? And they don't really understand how startup world works, and
Works.
and that really scares them, and that's why family ka response acha nahi tha. Any family thinks traditionally, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think they've been very supportive throughout. Yeah, I think my parents have been extremely supportive whenever in whatever I did or have done. But at that point of time, I thought, yaar, my expectation was just like, yaar, aisa college chhodna is not the norm. So I just decided not to tell people. And I just didn't tell my parents that I dropped out. and just continued building.
Oh,
And yeah, for 2 years they didn't know. And same with friends here. I think, I mean, friends are really there to support you, and you really expect that. But when you're starting up now, when people don't understand what you're doing, it's really hard. But I got the opportunity, or at least I'm blessed with some friends who have been there with me since the beginning, and that really helps you build some really special relationships. But yeah, I think when you start, the journey definitely feels very lonely. But along the way, you end up making some incredible friends who become an integral part of your life.
पेरेंट्स का सपोर्ट मिलना एक उस उम्र में, साथ साथ उस उम्र में तो क्या, किसी भी उम्र में वरना अगर आपका पेरेंट्स का फैमिली बैकग्राउंड बिजनेस नहीं है, सो वो एक डर रहता है कि क्यों पैसा उठाना है
Yeah,
मार्केट से, इससे अच्छा तो आप लोन फ्री रहो, डेट फ्री रहो। वो वाली
yeah,
मेंटालिटी बहुत ज्यादा हम
absolutely.
लोगों के अंदर होती है कि यार लोन नहीं है मतलब आप सॉर्टेड हो, क्या करना पैसे कमा
Yeah,
के, है ना, लोन नहीं होना चाहिए बस।
absolutely.
तो
Yeah.
आई गेट व्हाट यू आर सेइंग, बट हाउ डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड कि business aspect of things? Did you hire somebody or did you learn it yourself? Because आपने बोला कि कॉलेज तो आप ड्रॉप आउट कर चुके थे, ठीक है। तो और उसके साथ साथ मैं ये भी पूछना चाहूंगा कि डू यू ऑल्सो इन द सेंस दैट अंडरस्टैंड कि आजकल वो ड्रॉप आउट कल्चर भी चल रहा है, इन द सेंस कि लोगों को लगता है कि इट इज कूल कि ड्रॉप आउट करते हैं बट एक स्टार्टअप करते हैं। तो व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स अबाउट दैट, एंड व्हाट इज योर थॉट अबाउट हाउ यू गॉट द आइडिया ऑफ टर्निंग इट इनटू अ बिजनेस, इन द सेंस कि उसमें कुछ बिजनेस वाली चीजें भी तो होती है ना, कि कितना रेस करना है, कितना इक्विटी रखना है, कितना किसी को देना है। तो वो सब आपने कहाँ से सीखा? डिड यू लर्न इट बाय योरसेल्फ इंटरनेट पे, या फिर कोई आपका मेंटर था?
Yeah, lots of mentors. I
हम्म।
think when you're going on this journey, it's just impossible to really do something, without having the right guidance.
हम्म।
I think I've actually been very blessed, and I feel really extremely grateful and lucky that I got so many people around me throughout the journey who have been incredibly helpful, right? So I think that is there for sure. Like, yeah,
हम्म।
and that is one of the biggest things, because you also feel कि यार अगर कुछ गड़बड़ हो ना, तो कोई खड़ा है आपके
Correct.
साथ, right? To really help you. So that gives you a lot of mental strength,
हम्म।
right? But when it comes to purely skill set, I would say कि यार reading is something which is just like not enough talked about.
हम्म।
There is so much to learn. It's incredible how much you can learn in very little time, and like you will end up doing things which you're not expected to do if you
हम्म।
if you just like focus on learning from books. So I think I read a bunch of books. I don't believe that reading and just books is what is going to like really help you build your career. Absolutely not. But
हम्म।
I'd say books have been a really essential resource, especially when you're starting up in early days. That helps a lot, right?
हम्म।
So books se pad ke you really get to know the world. First, thing which you really should do is reduce the number of unknown unknowns which you have.
हम्म।
Convert your unknown unknowns to known unknowns first, right?
हम्म।
Once there are known unknowns, then you can create a roadmap for yourself कि यार ये चीजें सीखते हैं चलो, right?
हम्म।
बट जब आपको पता ही नहीं होगा ना कि यार आपको क्या नहीं पता है, तो फिर
करेक्ट।
आप कहीं नहीं जा रहे, है ना? सो आई थिंक बुक्स एंड ट्रैवलिंग हेल्प्स विद बोथ ऑफ दीज। सो
हम्म।
उससे बहुत सारी चीजें सीखने को मिली। द सेकंड थिंग part of your question which you asked was, can you
ड्रॉप
just
आउट।
hire people to do everything? Yeah,
या।
dropout was the third thing, but can you just hire people to do everything?
या।
The answer to that is also no. You have to understand that most smart people, um, why would they want to work with you if you're expecting them to do everything, right? It just doesn't work like that. So if business is a horse cart, then a lot of people think that, okay, you have your team, and then you're riding at the back, you're holding leashes, giving directions, etc., and things like that. वैसे लोग visualize करते हैं, right? पर वैसा नहीं है। reality है कि आप घोड़े हो, आपको बिजनेस को खींच के ले जाना है, right? So घोड़े आप हो, right? And everybody is counting on you, right? um, and because आप घोड़े हो तो डायरेक्शन आपको देना ही है, right? खींचना भी आपको है, सब कुछ आपको करना है. So that extreme ownership you have to take from business perspective. The third question was dropout, right? I know a lot of people talk about this, yeah, dropping out is cool or try to make a case कि यार देखो वो भी drop out किया, successful हो गया, etc. I believe everybody writes their own story. So there's no right decision for this. There's no right answer for this. The reason I dropped out was very simple. I learned how to design websites and things like that in my school days. And when I, really looked at the college curriculum, I couldn't really find what I was looking for, right? What I was looking for was a lot of excitement, travel, working on projects and learning how to build apps and things like that, right? And I wanted to do it in a way where my end goal was to build a business and not to become a software developer, right? So I think it really depends on. So it didn't make any sense for me. So it really depends on what do you want from your life. First, figure out what your path looks like, and then figure out whether this makes sense or not, right? वरना ये ऐसा हो जाएगा कि यार you know आप पूछ रहे हो कि यार बोट से ट्रैवल करना है या फिर स्कूटर से ट्रैवल करना है, राइट? बट पहले ये तो पता करो कि यार आप नदी का रास्ता ले रहे हो या
Hmm.
सड़क
Right.
का,
Hmm.
right? So
Correct. Correct. Correct.
a
Yeah, I
degree
see.
is only a boat. It's like a means to an end.
Well said. आई थिंक बहुत सारे जो यंग लोग हैं जो इसको जस्ट बिकॉज इट्स कूल एंड दे यूज इट एज अ बार्गेन कि अरे देखो
Yeah,
वो ड्रॉप आउट था उसने ये बना दिया,
yeah,
वो ड्रॉप आउट था, बट द थिंग इज कि यू नीड टू बी यू नो then you need to have that kind of an idea and then you need to have that kind of
yeah,
capabilities to actually establish something of your own. और
yeah,
मतलब जो बड़े बड़े लोग ड्रॉप आउट्स हैं उनको एग्जाम्पल ना सेट किया जाए, उनको आप
yeah.
इंस्पिरेशन की तरह
Absolutely,
ले
yeah,
सकते हैं, बट
yeah.
एट द सेम टाइम यू शुड नो सेल्फ असेसमेंट भी जरूरी है कि आर यू केपेबल
Absolutely.
इनफ, है ना?
Plus, you also don't know the full story, right?
या
Like,
एग्जैक्टली.
it's very different. Like, we
या.
see what, like, you would want to see Steve Jobs, Mark
हम्म.
Zuckerberg, or Bill Gates as dropouts, right? Every single person's story was different.
या.
Mark Zuckerberg already had a product which was taking off, and he was literally forced to drop out
हम्म.
because his company was just growing so much
या.
in order to support that, right?
या.
Bill Gates had an option to drop out or dropped out because he came from like a really privileged background,
हम्म.
and he says that like he could go back to college to complete his
हम्म.
degree
हम्म.
anytime he wanted, right? Like
या.
US education system gives you this
गिव्स यू
ability
दिस.
to take a break for 2 3 years, 4 years, and go back to
हम्म.
school and finish your degree, right? And then like Steve Jobs did that because he just thought that spending so much money on education just did not make sense, right? So alag story hai, alag
हम्म.
background hai, alag context hai, and I think yeah, normalizing that or generalizing it to kind of like make your decisions
हम्म.
is very wrong. I've got calls from parents. A couple of times I went to different colleges to speak
हम्म.
there, and one day I just get a call, and somebody's parents were like, हमारे बच्चे ने तो आपको सुन के कॉलेज छोड़ दिया, अब आप बताओ क्या करना है. so so that's very scary, right?
पेस्टो पे भेज दो. कोर्स करेंगे,
Yeah.
जॉब लगेगी.
No, but even Pesto, yaar, matlab, I'm I would love to like brag as much as I'd want, but the reality of the situation is that not everybody can benefit in the same way from Pesto. Like to get the
हम्म.
best out of Pesto, it's like a 3 or 6 months program,
या.
right? So आप literally पढ़ा रहे हो, you're an enabler, you're a catalyst,
या.
right? So it depends a lot on who is really enrolled for them to get the most out of the program.
हम्म.
And that's just not with Pesto, that's with any program out there.
हम्म.
So कोई भी आके ये बोलता है कि यार हमारा प्रोग्राम ऐसा है, जादू होगा, नहीं
हाँ,
होगा जादू, right? Because
जादू एक्चुअली स्टूडेंट में खुद होता है. ये
yeah,
ये चीज मुझे भी पता है, इस बात को मैं समझ सकता हूँ, क्योंकि एक ही टीचर होता है और वो 10 लोगों को पढ़ा रहा है, उसमें से एक बंदा टॉप कर रहा है और एक बंदा को कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा, तो इट्स ऑल्सो द स्टूडेंट.
absolutely,
ऑब्वियसली
yeah,
प्रॉपर गाइडेंस इज रिक्वायर्ड, प्रॉपर गाइडेंस इज नीडेड. एट द सेम टाइम स्टूडेंट भी उस तरह का होना चाहिए जो उसका मतलब ही शुड हैव, जैसे कि वो हिंदी लैंग्वेज में बोलेंगे, उसका बर्तन इतना होना चाहिए कि आप भरते रहो तो वो कंटेन कर पाए सारी इंफॉर्मेशन,
absolutely,
है ना?
yeah,
तो आई थिंक दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. बट
yeah.
कमिंग ऑन टू द इन्वेस्टमेंट सेगमेंट, जैसे जब जब कोई बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते हैं तो फंड्स रेज करने होते हैं. सो
Mhm.
आई वांटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज, जैसे हम ये टर्म्स सुनते हैं, एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स होते हैं, वेंचर कैपिटल, इसका इनका मतलब क्या होता है? व्हाट आर
Mhm.
दीज थिंग्स?
So yeah, these are like different asset classes, right? So angel investors are just normal people investing in their friends and buying a small part of equity of a company at a very early stage, right? When you're figuring out what to build, right? For example, let's say Arjun says that, okay, Ayush, I'm starting something in media space, right? This is a company. मैं ऐसा कुछ सोच रहा हूँ, but very early days, right? So आप जो सोच रहे हो, आप 6 महीने बाद कुछ और सोच रहे हो सकते हो, right? So you can come to me that Ayush is a good friend of mine. So I'm raising a small round to fund like next 1 year and this experiment which I'm doing. So Ayush जैसे आपको 50 लोग मिलेंगे, 20 लोग मिलेंगे, 10 लोग मिलेंगे, जिनसे आप अपना राउंड एक बना के you can raise enough money to get started, right?
Okay.
That is angel investment. And because we are very early and it's individuals investing, you get entry at a very early stage when the valuation of the company is not as high. So you end up making money as well if the company ends up doing well. But it's largely around, it's less about investment. It comes from a place of passion for most people, right? Because people are passionate about backing different ideas, जिससे उनको kick मिले and really can contribute to your journey, right? Like people who have built companies can probably help you with a lot of mentorship and advice, which can help you avoid a bunch of mistakes, right? So that is angel investment. Venture capitalist is a different kind of investor who is basically, you know, running an asset class which is designed to invest in startups while having the understanding that majority of startups fail, right? So venture capitalists have their own investors who are called limited partners, LPs, who invest in a venture capital fund, and they have partners who invest in companies, right, on behalf of those investors, right?
Okay.
And while investing in companies, the way venture capital works is that there are 5% companies who will end up doing well, right? And their maths is such that we will invest in, let's say, 100 companies. We are assuming that majority of them will fail because, you know, at a very early stage, when you're building a startup, the chances of failure is very high, right? So assuming that not everybody will make it through, but the returns which you will get from a limited number of companies has to be so high that it will give you, you know, enough returns to cover up not just the losses for the rest of the companies, but also ends up giving you a lot more money in return. Like one quick example is A16Z is one of the really best investors in the world, and they invested in Coinbase when, you know, Coinbase was very early. It wasn't a thing, right? And the return which they got from that, I think $200,000 or $500,000 check was enormous. It was billions, and you know that one investment ended up returning their entire fund, right? So all the money which they invested from that fund, you know, their fund one, I guess, or whatever that fund size looks like, they got that return from this one investment which they made, right?
Wow, insane.
So that's how venture capital works. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other things around it that it's very hard to succeed in venture capital. There are a lot of people who succeed, a lot of people who don't, and stuff, things like that. But yeah, it's an exciting space to be in. It funds all the innovation, right? Because it has room for failure. So when you have room for failure, you can experiment more and you can innovate more. So
amazing. So coming back to your company, it's a very interesting thing. It's almost like a university, right? कि एक आप अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी में जाते हो और आप पढ़ाई करते हो, उसके बाद वहाँ पे प्लेसमेंट भी होती है. यही चाहिए हर किसी को, हर माँ बाप को यही चाहिए. In a certain way, you have used an existing functional model and you've turned it into something else.
Yeah.
I think that is what innovation is.
Yeah.
है ना? तो एक ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग और सक्सेसफुल मॉडल है कि लोग यूनिवर्सिटी जाते हैं पढ़ने के लिए. अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी जिसकी रैंकिंग हाई है, उसमें क्या रैंकिंग हाई होने का रीजन ये है कि प्लेसमेंट अच्छी मिल जाएगी, डायरेक्ट प्लेसमेंट मिलेगी. अगर आईआईटी से पढ़ रहे हो तो और आईएमएम से अपना एमबीए कर लिया तो वो प्लेसमेंट वो कंपनी आएगी, लेके जाएगी आपको इतने पैकेज पे. करेक्ट. समथिंग सिमिलर टू दैट इज व्हाट यू आर ऑफरिंग.
यार, I would
3 से 6
say
महीने के अंदर.
I would say very different. Let me explain how. So जो यूनिवर्सिटीज है ना यार, यूनिवर्सिटीज को बनाया गया था 400-500 साल पहले, probably more, right? Like if you look at some English universities, they're even older, right? But most of the universities, it was established model in last 400-500 years, right? So since then, university में innovation नहीं हुआ है, right? अभी जो बेस्ट यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं वो सक्सेसफुल क्यों होती हैं? बिकॉज वहां पर सिलेक्शन बायस होता है, राइट? लाइक only a few people will make it to IITs who are really, really smart, right?
Correct.
So if you put those people in any university, the chances, the probability of them succeeding is already very high, right?
Yep.
So that's one. There's selection bias.
Hmm.
Once that selection bias is there, then you also have education bit of it, right? Like the education is curated and stuff like that, and they spend 4 years in it, do a lot of things. Because there is this selection bias and a decent education system, it attracts all the best companies in the world to come there, and hence the outcomes are nicer, right? But if you scale this, it doesn't work,
It
right?
doesn't work. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we are trying to do is we basically realize that this whole process of going to a building, studying for 4 years, and coming out of that school thinking that now you have this piece of paper which is a degree, this will help you be employed for the rest of your life, right? Why was this true earlier? 100 साल पहले सोचो ना यार, what was the way? आपको किसी को hire करना है, कारपेंटर चाहिए या इंजीनियर चाहिए, let's say, right? How do you verify someone is an engineer? उसको कैसे वैसे दें? So आप बोलोगे यार डिग्री दिखाओ मुझे, right? So there was no other means of communication. So that's why degrees made sense, right? But as you know, I'll only talk about tech education here because mera area wohi hai. But in last 30 years, technology has evolved so much, and the pace at which technology is evolving is very fast, right? So आज जो आप पढ़ रहे हो ना, 2 साल बाद ये relevant ही नहीं होगा, 5 साल बाद और भी relevant नहीं होगा.
खत्म.
So if you are not learning constantly, your value in the market is going down, right? So ये जो whole model है ना कि आपने बिल्डिंग में जो 4 साल सीख लिया, इसी से आपको नौकरी मिलती रहेगी जिंदगी भर, ये model doesn't work in that case, right? So we came up with a different model. We said that, okay, if you're an engineer, it's hard to keep up with the market, right? And also another problem in academia is that because technology is changing so fast, it takes time to translate this knowledge from companies which are like actually building to academics and people who are like teaching there, right? And then they take years to transfer it to students, and by the time those students come in the market, this is irrelevant already.
Correct.
Exactly. So Pesto ने आके बोला कि यार आपका पहला तो ये 4 साल का प्रोग्राम नहीं होना चाहिए. So we said that let us only take developers who have some context, who have gone through maybe this 4 years of thing, and they have clear fundamentals, right? And in 3 to 6 months program, we don't just train them, we help them get a coach, a mentor, who is going to help them one-on-one to grow in their career. Somebody who is senior working at a company, who is at the helm of everything, who is at the center of all the action, right? So वो mentor जो already किसी एक बढ़िया कंपनी में, कोई फार्म कंपनी में या किसी अच्छे प्रोडक्ट कंपनी में काम कर रहा है, that person is going to mentor these Pesto developers and tell them what is actually happening on the job and how things are done, right? And they will do this over a 6 months time, right? And apart from engineering, we realize कि यार हमारे लोग ना बहुत हार्ड वर्किंग है, but there are a lot of things जो हमें किसी ने सिखाया नहीं, like time management, like communication, written and oral, right? ये सारी चीजें किसी ने सिखाई नहीं. So we realized that apart from technical skills, अगर हम लोग soft skills या life skills भी लोगों को सिखा दें in these 6 months, their employability just goes through the roof. Now they are capable to compete with any company in the world with talent coming from any education system, right? Like Pesto developers, we have hundreds of people today who are working with companies which are full of people from Stanford, Harvard, or all the other Ivy League schools, right? And they're able to cope up with them because they basically have everything they need, right? They earlier had too many unknown unknowns.
Yes.
Hardworking सारे थे, पर उनको पता ही नहीं था कि उनको क्या नहीं पता है, right?
Correct.
We just try to remove those unknown unknowns, and then when people are capable, they themselves try to catch up with those things. So yeah, our education system, which we are trying to like.
I think this is a very valid point because half of the problem is solved if you know the problem. So knowing the problem is the biggest problem, that वो पता ही नहीं चलता कि ये problem exist भी करती है. So absolutely. I think this is a very interesting gap that you filled, and ये बहुत जरूरी था एक ऐसी इंडियन कंपनी इस तरह की आए who can probably change the face of this entire system, which is
Absolutely.
I congratulate you, man. This is like an insane idea, and I'm glad that it's working really well.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
it goes a long way. I definitely feel that India has been powering the world if you really
Hmm.
look at it.
Yeah, it
Last
is.
30, 40, 50 years, we have been, people call it like an outsourcing hub, but the reality is India has been the back end of the world for
Hmm.
a very long time. And I think what that has done is that has really given us talent, which has been building for years now.
Yes.
And now people don't look at, the market as a way to cut costs. They look at,
Hmm.
okay, this is where the talent is,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I feel that
Absolutely.
over next couple of decades, especially as software is eating the world and IT takes over,
Yeah.
I feel India has an incredible opportunity here to dominate.
Yeah. Let's hope that happens. We are all waiting for that
Bilkul.
because वो
It
होना
has
होना
to.
तो है
There
ही,
is
वो होना तो है ही, बट
exactly,
सिर्फ
there's no other way.
वही है कि कब होगा.
Yeah, honestly, I would say abhi ho raha hai.
नहीं, हो तो रहा है, ये तो
This is what
दिखता
it
है,
feels like. Yeah,
दिखता तो है कि ये हो रहा है, एंड इंडिया इज गोइंग टू डोमिनेट, बिकॉज कहीं पे भी आप चले जाओ दुनिया में, सब जगह इंडियंस बैठे हैं, सब जगह पे इंडियंस बैठे हैं,
absolutely.
हर पोजीशन पे, पावरफुल पोजीशन पे, अथॉरिटी वाली पोजीशन पे इंडियंस बैठे हैं, तो
Yeah,
घेरा तो हुआ है. अब बस और थोड़ा झंडा गाड़ना बाकी है,
I agree. And
बट
I'll tell you that I'm based on the business I'm in, the number of companies which are Indian startups जो हम लोगों के पास आती हैं which are looking to hire talent in East Europe and US is very, very large.
वाओ.
So it's not really the opposite way anymore, right? पहले क्या होता था कि US companies आ रही हैं and
हाँ,
Indian लोगों को hire कर रही हैं, right?
करेक्ट करेक्ट.
The reverse of that is very much true today, right? I have friends who, their teams are largely, majority of the teams are spread all across the world, right? They have people in
Amazing.
Europe, US, etc. And I feel that trend is catching up, and very, very soon we'll see, Indians who are not only leaders in different companies across the world, but Indian companies really
Yeah,
leading those
absolutely,
charts. Yeah.
absolutely. But coming on to इन्वेस्टमेंट्स नाउ, एज जैसे जो यंग लोग हैं आजकल, वो आजकल बहुत ज्यादा समझ रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक्स को, कि किस तरह
Mhm.
से पैसे को, जो कि स्कूल में सिखाया नहीं जाता. ठीक है, स्कूल में
Yeah.
आपको बताएंगे कि ये पढ़ो, जॉब करो, ये करो, बट
Yeah.
पैसा आपके पास आ जाएगा, उसके बाद करना क्या है. सो व्हाट डू यू
Mhm.
सजेस्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट? हाउ डू यू इन्वेस्ट योर मनी? डू यू प्रेफर क्रिप्टो, डू यू प्रेफर स्टॉक्स, और डू यू लाइक डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करके दोनों में थोड़ा थोड़ा डाल दिया? व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस?
Again, I think like in order to, so there's no right answer to this. Long term, I do believe in crypto because I'm a decentralized maximalist. I like I've been a big fan of Uber, co-working spaces and
No.
stuff like that in the
Yeah.
past. And as this crypto wave came in, I could really see how we are decentralizing the power
The power.
across, right? And I definitely feel that the amount of noise which is there in crypto is just absurd. Like it's really like 95% noise, 5% real building happening. But I do feel that at some point this noise will get reduced when markets go down. Like people who are there to like just visit will go away, and builders will again like keep their head down and keep
Yeah.
building. So I definitely feel that there is a lot of scope there. But from investment perspective, I believe in a very simple thing. You should never invest in anything which you don't understand, be it crypto, be it real estate, be it stock
Stocks.
markets, be it anything, right? Do not invest in anything which you don't understand. If you are young, try to learn things like less from Instagram, more from like actually studying stuff and
Yeah.
seeing how things are working. What does the risk profile looks like in different asset classes, and what are the ways to invest, right? Like, and one of the things I can tell you is like making money is hard, right? And everybody respects their hard-earned money, but growing that money is harder,
Yep.
right? And that's how you create actual wealth,
Yep.
when the money which you have made ends up making more money than the money which you make, right? And
Yep.
money needs to make money while you sleep, and that's really important, right? So I think yeah, losing money is easier, basically what I'm trying to say. So
It
just
is.
because, yeah,
अभी
just because
क्रिप्टो
crypto
तो
is
सब नीचे ही जा
fancy.
रहा है, ऐसे ऐसे सब अभी इतना ऐसा, अगर 30
Yeah,
डाला तो 10 हो गया है, तो losing is
yeah,
it's like very quick, and making that much
losing,
money is,
yeah,
yeah.
because you do have to understand that
Mm,
when things are going down, then somebody is making money
yeah,
on that as well, right? Like
absolutely.
retail users are losing, but people who are shorting are
Mm,
basically making money there as well. But I mean, that apart, I would say generally everybody should have like financial understanding of different asset classes. I
mm,
would highly recommend people to not rush into things. Like, don't invest in crypto because your friends said so,
yeah, yeah.
or somebody on YouTube said, or somebody on Instagram said. Don't do that. Try to understand the underlying technology behind that.
Mm,
Similarly, if you're investing in stocks, try to understand how stock markets work, how companies function, try to make long-term bets, try to diversify your risks, try to
mm,
invest in low-risk things as well, right? If somebody says that I only invest in high risk, that's the wrong strategy.
mm,
There is no right thing to invest in. You basically need to invest in everything, hedge your risk, and like really be mindful of what are the asset classes which you really understand and
mm.
which you're really buying. So yeah, I think that understanding is really important for everybody.
Amazing. आई थिंक सही बोल रहे हैं आप, क्योंकि किसी भी चीज में घुसने से पहले यू शुड नो व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, नहीं तो फिर तो कुछ भी, आजकल तो टिकटॉक पे और ये इंस्टाग्राम पे चल रहा है, ये वाला क्रिप्टो अगले 10 घंटे में
Yeah,
इतना होने वाला है। अब वो बेचारा, अगर किसी को नॉलेज नहीं है, वो देख के बेचारा वो खरीद ले अगर 15-20 हज़ार रुपए की।
95% scam, like
हाँ,
probably more,
तो
right?
तो आप
So
सोचो कितना नुकसान हो जाएगा बैठे बैठे। तो आई थिंक या यू शुड नो द डेविल बिफोर यू मीट
absolutely,
हिम।
and
या।
I can tell you that there are like the understanding is like so low right now in the Web3 space that there are there are very obvious anyone who's like who is fundamentally like really into Web3 would be able to understand this. There are like really fundamental things which are just out there, and a normal person won't be able to differentiate. But
डिफरेंशिएट।
like if you are like a native crypto person, you can be like, okay, this is a scam, this is not, this is a scam, this is not. But yeah, it's really bad for the wider audience for sure. So it's very important to be very mindful. Yeah.
तो ये सब लोगों के लिए सीख है कि भाई थोड़ा ध्यान, अपना दिमाग आंखें खुली रखो, ऐसे कोई भी पोस्ट वोस्ट देख के ना इन्वेस्टमेंट्स मत करो, थोड़ा रिसर्च करो हर चीज के बारे में। अगर आप यूट्यूब भी देख रहे हो, यूट्यूब पे ऑब्वियसली यू शुड वॉच लॉन्गर फॉर्मेट वीडियोस, जहाँ पे एक किसी चीज के बारे में पूरी तरीके से लेंथ में बात हो रही है। आजकल 30 सेकंड वाला जनरेशन हो चुका है ना, तो वो 30 सेकंड में दे वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि 15 लाख रुपए कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करूँ। तो जब आपको पैसा इन्वेस्ट करना है, आप 30 सेकंड का वीडियो देखोगे कि आप 30 घंटे का वीडियोस देखोगे, तब आपको समझ में आएगा कि पैसा का इन्वेस्ट करना है। सो ऑब्वियसली वर्क ऑन योर नॉलेज, एंड
Yeah.
he has given such recommendations and suggestions that we should all follow these things.
Yeah.
But आपके पास NFT है? Do you like, are you purchasing NFTs and all?
Yeah. I do.
You are
I do have a few of them. Yes.
superb. क्योंकि मैंने भी recently launch किया है, so I've just, I don't know anything about it, but I just
That's nice.
designed something and I just put it on OpenSea and all these. But I was excited to put it out, create an artwork, turn it into an
Yeah.
NFT, उसको क्या उसमें कुछ उसको क्रिएट करने में भी कुछ पैसे लग जाते हैं। आई थिंक
Yeah.
कुछ 6-7 हज़ार
The
रुपए मेरे
gas
लग गए
fees
थे,
and
हाँ,
things
गैस
like that.
फीस एंड ऑल
Yeah,
दैट।
absolutely.
बट इट वाज फन टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ
To
दैट।
do it.
हाँ, टू
Yes.
डू इट, कि अच्छा मैंने बनाया है खुद
Exactly.
से। वाओ।
So that's what's most important. Yeah. Like when
या
people look at, when I say Web3, what's the immediate thing? Ye coin kharidna hai, wo coin.
वो क्या खरीदा?
That's not something which should really come to mind. When we say Web3, what should come to mind is a very early technology which is getting built from scratch, which can very well not work, right? But which is getting built from scratch, which has attracted a lot of smart people around the world to be building, and there are really phenomenal people working on very interesting problems, right? So look at those problems, look at what they're working on, and try to be a builder in this space, right? Like the the amount of money, like if you're really interested in making money, the amount of money which you can really make as a builder in Web3 space is like
enormous.
exponentially more
Yeah.
than what
Wow.
you could make by making investments. So be a builder, try out things, right? Like see how launching an NFT works, study about it, right? And things like that. And let's say you spent 7,000 in it, right? What did you get out of it? You really learned how this works, right? So
Yep.
that your understanding of NFT would be significantly more than a person who just went ahead and bought an NFT for 77,000, right? So
Absolutely.
being a
हाँ,
builder is
ये
more
कर
important.
करके बंदा सीखता है। अब मैंने जैसे एक्सक्लूसिव बना दी थी वो, ठीक है? तो अब मेरा जो
Nice.
कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन है, वो ही नहीं निकल रहा जो बिडिंग आ रही है
Yeah.
उसके साथ, ठीक है? तो वो
Yeah.
बिड कर रहे हैं कुछ $20 $25 ऐसा कुछ,
Yeah.
मतलब जो मतलब कन्वर्ट करके इतना बनेगा। तो आई थॉट कि ये मैंने गलती की। अब उसमें नया ऑप्शन आ गया दैट यू डोंट हैव टू पे द गैस फी, द बायर विल पे द गैस फी वंस यू अप्रूव द बिड। So I thought
Mm.
this is something new now, this is something else to learn. And then
Yes.
obviously then I thought ki then I should not have kept it exclusive. If in $20 I'm able to sell 1,000 copies of this, then I'm
Yeah.
doing really good.
Yeah.
लेकिन अगर मैं 6,000 में बेच के 2,000 में मतलब खरीद के 2 में बेच रहा हूँ तो कोई फायदा नहीं है ना। तो
Exactly. Yeah.
या आई थिंक
Hey,
बट इट
that makes
गिव्स यू
sense.
किक, या इट गिव्स यू दैट किक कि अच्छा कुछ मैंने क्रिएट करके मैं उस ये मतलब एनएफटी बना के डाल दिया है
That
कुछ तो।
excitement to really
यस,
understand the
दैट
technology,
इज
right? And
नेक्स्ट लेवल ब्रो।
absolutely.
हाँ, दैट
Yeah.
इज नेक्स्ट
And
लेवल।
if you really go to the next level and try to really understand here, what are the utilities and
हम्म
things like that. So I think like in the future, there's a lot of noise, by the way, in the space, and everybody was launching their own collections and random people buying, and there was just a lot of inflow of money, absurd amount of money coming into the
या
ecosystem because of FOMO. But I think I truly believe in NFTs, and I'll tell you where I come from. NFTs are basically digital goods, right? That's it.
या
What are NFTs? Digital goods, right? If you look at people who are growing up, who are in the age between 6 to 13, you will find a lot of kids who are playing virtual games, right? And when they're playing those games, they're also buying t-shirts for their avatar. They're buying skins for their cars. They're buying a lot of digital goods within that game, within that ecosystem, right? So that behavior is getting built in them at a very early age, right?
यप, उनके लिए तो
When
प्रेजेंट है वो, हमारे लिए फ्यूचर है।
exactly when this generation grows up in next 10 years, buying a digital good will be like very normal to them,
आम सी
right?
बात हो जाएगी। हाँ
Exactly. Just like I go to my grandma and I tell her कि यार मैंने ना ये एक ऐप लिया है, इसमें ये होता है, right? She'll be like ये क्या है, गेम खरीदा है, ये क्या खरीदा है, उससे खाना थोड़ी मिलेगा, right?
एग्जैक्टली।
तुम्हें, right? So she won't get it
या
because, right? So I think that's the difference here. कि digital goods are already in use. The amount of money spent by kids in virtual gaming ecosystem, it's just absurd. There are billions of dollars flowing into that, right? So I think NFTs are here to stay, but I definitely like believe that the current state of NFTs is just like crypto is 95% noise, but NFT is more like 99%, something like that. It's crazy, the amount of
सुपर
noise which is there in NFT space. But
अमेजिंग।
yeah, utility NFTs, I think you should do some research about. You will find it interesting, I
I'll
think.
do my like due diligence in that. Utility NFTs,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
utility NFTs or NFTs and like the gaming ecosystem can probably, come out stronger and things like that.
I think this is one. Just अभी आपसे बात करके मुझे एक बात समझ में है कि if someone guides you what to look for, that solves half of your problem. Like you just
Exactly.
told me utility NFTs, अब मैं इसके बारे में रिसर्च करके उसको मैं चाट जाऊंगा, मुझे पता है, क्योंकि
Yeah,
दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ पर्सन आई एम। मैं घुस जाता हूँ उसके अंदर और मैं पूरा रिसर्च करके जब तक नींद नहीं आएगी मेरे को तब तक। तो
absolutely.
नाउ इफ इफ somebody had told me this earlier, तो अभी तक मैं
Yeah,
ऑलरेडी उस चीज में होता, घुसा हुआ होता।
I know. Yeah,
तो दैट इज
absolutely.
व्हाट इट इज। आई थिंक वहीं पे मेंटरशिप काम आती है कि
Yeah,
some people tell you this is
yeah,
where you need to look. That's
exactly.
what it is.
Yeah, I believe future of education is all about this.
Yeah.
Like if somebody says that education is about content and teaching something specific and things like that, that's probably not true because the amount of information, I think we are in the information overload stage,
Yeah.
age in the world. There is too much information out there. If you just do your research, you will probably figure out what anything is, right? कुछ भी सीख सकते हो आप.
बिल्कुल।
So showing the right direction and removing unknown unknowns and probably being a mentor to help guide you where you should be going is probably going to be the future of education. So
But coming down to the business aspect of it, so with pandemic mein, almost every business suffered a loss. So how did your business cope up in that time?
yeah, in the beginning when the pandemic hit, we suffered a loss as well. And it was a very tough time, I'm sure, like for everybody. I don't think there was any company apart from the likes of Zoom and people which immediately were beneficiaries of remote work. Um, I think in the beginning we did suffer some losses, but I think it picked up pretty well for us because remote work became like a thing, and we were right about that. But as I mentioned earlier, like that we should have benefited a lot more
Yeah,
than what we did. But it was okay. I think it worked pretty well for us, and it continues to be pretty good. I think like remote work is here to stay. I've always been saying that,
I love
but
it. That's why
yeah,
I've been able to move because I'm doing all my projects remotely now. I don't have to see my
exactly.
client. वो बोलेगा हाँ ये
Yeah,
जिंगल बनाना है ये करना है even if it's a film
yeah,
I read the script I create the tracks I send it to them they respond
yeah,
ठीक है 2 दिन का काम 3 दिन में होता है but
absolutely.
now I'm not bound I think remote work is the thing and it should never go
It will not. It will not. Because it's just makes sense. And in fact, like if you want, you should connect with. I can ask the vendors to connect you to a bunch as well.
yeah
But Pesto के developers हैं आज जो 2017-18 से remotely काम कर रहे हैं.
wow
एंड वो सब खुश हैं अपना मतलब कोई दार्जिलिंग से काम कर रहा है, कोई कानपुर से कर रहा है, कोई एक बंदे ने अपने गांव के पास नियरेस्ट जहाँ पर इंटरनेट आता था
hmm.
वहां पर जाके काम
wow
कर रहा है, एक लिटरली गांव से कर रहा है उसने. आई वाज चैटिंग विद हिम, इंटरव्यूइंग हिम, एंड ही सेड कि यार आई हैड टू बाय अ कार जिसका ग्राउंड क्लियरेंस ऊपर हो बिकॉज खेत में लेके जाता हूँ मैं. एंड आई एम लाइक दिस इज
खेत
क्रेजी, राइट?
खेत में कोडर भाई बहुत बढ़िया
Yeah,
और क्या
so
चाहिए यार
so there are a lot of interesting stories which comes out of this, and of course, like yeah, remote work. Yeah, the thesis was कि, well, from business perspective, the reason why I got into this was, yeah, I was committed to really tag along for next decade or two, if that
hmm.
is what it takes,
Hmm.
right, to really help this succeed, right? So with that perspective, I really got into this market, assuming that कि यार 10 साल तो लगेंगे ही लगेंगे
correct
for remote work to really become a thing. And the thought process was that जो भी top talent होगा ना, top talent बोलेगा कि मुझे remote work करना है.
correct
So companies will start slowly giving remote work flexibility to top talent. And those who won't will lose talent, right?
absolutely
And companies will slowly start going fully remote to
hmm.
attract all of this talent which wants to be remote, right? So majority of
Ah,
employees are Pesto, okay?
wow
75% of people, probably more, 75%. I've never met in life. Like, we have, we met like the rest 25% just because we did an offsite 3 weeks ago, right?
अच्छा
And we had like a few people come over, but yeah, I think nobody has met each other. एंड
amazing
पेस्टो के स्टूडेंट्स ने तो लाइफ में नहीं मिले किसी भी
अच्छा
पार्टनर से जिसके साथ वो काम कर रहे हैं.
wow
4-5 साल हो गए.
ऑलरेडी ये हम मेटावर्स के टुवर्ड्स जा रहे हैं नॉट
नहीं,
मीटिंग
हम
एनीवन
मेटावर्स में हैं.
हैं
वी आर
ऑलरेडी
ऑलरेडी लिविंग इन द मेटावर्स.
यस
The only thing is that the size of the screen is limited right now, and
या
and it's 2D.
hmm
The amount of time you spend looking at a screen, just try to look at it. You're spending more time looking at a
absolutely
screen.
I don't remember like when you are not with the screen only when you're sleeping otherwise आप फोन पे हो probably when you're driving you're
Yeah,
not looking at the screen but ठीक है
yeah,
otherwise तो सारा दिन आप गाड़ी से उतरते ही सबसे पहले बंदा फोन देख रहा है घर पे आते ही सबसे पहले बंदा लैपटॉप देख रहा है
yeah,
कंप्यूटर देख रहा है तो I think
yeah,
you're right we are already in the matrix
yeah.
so
For me, it's only time when my wife is not happy with me. She's a big non-screen person, so
okay
she's not on
okay
social media and all
hmm.
that. And yeah, she puts me off the screen very often.
वो ठीक है यार चलो फिलहाल तो अभी वी आर द जनरेशन जो हम थोड़ा ऑफलाइन और ऑनलाइन लाइफ एंजॉय कर सकते हैं
Transitioning में, yeah,
ट्रांजिशनिंग में
correct.
है सो वील बी द पीपल लेटर ऑन इन टेलिंग अदर्स कि हमारे टाइम पे तो आमने सामने मिला करते थे और वो सब
Yeah,
उसके बाद तो आई थिंक दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज गोइंग टू डिसअपियर
absolutely,
कंप्लीटली
I mean, I already don't like it. Like I
Hmm.
scheduled two meetings, two in-person meetings today, and my entire day is gone.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably unproductive,
It
right?
is.
Like take a guess. Like
Yeah.
how many Zoom meetings? I could do like 8 or 10 Zoom meetings
In a
easily,
day.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 6-7 hours of calls ho jata
Hmm.
hai mera.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the moment you turn into offline catch-ups, it's just so unproductive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
driving 20 minutes to meet someone is even worse.
आई थिंक दिस इज एन इंटरेस्टिंग थॉट कि हम ऑलरेडी मेटावर्स के अंदर हैं, बट वेयर डू यू थिंक इट इज गोइंग? क्या होने वाला है ये? जो अगली जनरेशन है, मुझे लगता है वो बोलेगी हमें उसके अंदर डाल दो, आप किसी तरह, बस हमें आना ही नहीं वापस.
हाँ नहीं, I think that's already the next generation is already in it, right?
या.
ये आपको नहीं पता
हाँ, हमें
है.
नहीं पता है.
I know kids who on their birthdays asked for a virtual T-shirt
ओ माय गॉड,
as their birthday gifts, right?
दिस इज स्केरी.
So they are already living in the metaverse. उनका बढ़िया चल रहा है. आपको नहीं पता है कि
अच्छा, ये
you know.
वैसा हो गया कि पापा पबजी में ना वो वाली गन की स्किन लेनी है ऐसा
Yeah,
ही हो
yeah,
गया ना ये?
exactly. Yeah,
अच्छा, मेरे को
absolutely. There
इतने
are other
कॉइन्स.
games in which
हाँ.
people are like completely submerged. And I have friends whose
माइनक्राफ्ट एंड ऑल.
जिनके बच्चे,
हम्म.
yeah, correct.
या.
Minecraft and all are absolutely. तो वो हो रहा है यार, I think. And I think just think about it like this. Earlier, हमें ऐसा लगता था कि यार स्क्रीन पे दिन भर बैठना इज इम्पॉसिबल बिकॉज पहले मॉनिटर ऐसे वाले आते थे, आपका सिर दर्द रहता था, राइट?
करेक्ट.
So think about it from that perspective. I'm talking about pre-LCD days, 2004
वो
maybe.
बड़े बड़े मॉनिटर्स
Um,
होते थे जो.
Correct, 2004 में CRT monitors, right?
हम्म.
वो चलता कैसे था, पीछे से रेज फेंके जाते थे लाइट के, जो आपकी आंख में आते थे, and it was also unhealthy,
करेक्ट.
and you couldn't really look at it for. अब तो लोग 15-15 घंटे बैठे रहते हैं, आप
बिल्कुल.
पहले उस पे 6 घंटे भी नहीं बैठ सकते थे, राइट?
एब्सोल्युटली.
That was very uncomfortable, right?
हम्म.
Imagine, what if I tell you that the Oculus and the VR headsets which we have
हम्म.
today are the CRT
ओ,
equivalent, right?
मतलब
So in
इतनी डेवलप
next,
होने वाली है वो चीज आगे.
exactly, in
ओ,
next 3 to 5 years, it is only going to get better and better from here, right? Like
अमेजिंग.
think about other things. For example, जब टेलीफोन आया था, it took 70 years for telephone
हम्म.
to get mass adoption, right? Why is that? Because you needed wires all
या.
across the world,
हम्म.
right? So wires लगाने में time लगता है. So infrastructure नहीं था to support that innovation,
हम्म.
right? Similarly, in order to make VR headsets very seamless, you need really like low latency and high speed data transfer, like really high speed internet. You
हम्म.
need 5G, right? Um, so internet speed itself is going to like increase by a huge margin. Like I
मल्टीफोल्ड.
think like 10 years ago, 1 Mbps used to be like
ओ हाँ, कि
we
भाई
are
इसके पास
going
1
so
एमबीपीएस है,
fast.
न्यूज होती थी वो.
Exactly. 10 Mbps used to be
हाँ.
like, okay,
या.
this is too fast. Download karte hain.
हम्म.
But abhi, I think everybody has 200, 300 Mbps. Geo ka penetration is, Geo fiber is crazy, and there are so many other companies doing
या.
incredible things, right? So internet speed will basically act as like one of the things which VR needs to support. So I would say we are one innovation away, yaar. We are one
या.
innovation away. जैसे ही वो comfortable हो जाए ना, to like really spend time, the moment you feel कि यार वो headset पहन के बैठना is actually more comfortable than looking at a screen.
हम्म.
It's game
Probably,
over, right?
who knows कि वो innovation आगे जाके उस level तक पहुंच जाएगी that you are just wearing one earpiece and lenses in your eyes, and
Absolutely.
nobody even knows कि you are, अब यहाँ हो कि मेटा में हो, आप बस
Yeah.
बैठे हो
Let's.
normally like a person. दो, जैसे अभी कहीं चले जाओ तो हर बंदे ने एयरपॉड्स पहने हुए हैं, you don't even know, आपसे बात कर रहे हैं कि ये फोन पे है, right? तो बस आंखों में लेंस लग जाएगा and you are actually in the augmented reality, and that is
Yeah,
what I
I
think
agree.
it will.
Let's go straight to Black Mirror.
या वैसे ही हो जाएगा ये. सब मेमोरीज रिकॉर्ड हो
Absolutely.
रहा है, ऐसा किया, पीछे चले गए, आगे चले गए. और इलॉन मस्क तो बना भी रहे, वो क्या चिप बना रहे हैं जो
Neuralink. Yeah,
खतरनाक चीजें होने वाली हैं ब्रो. लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू इट, एट द सेम टाइम इट इज स्कैरी, बट
it is.
यही तो मजा है यार टेक्नोलॉजी का. कि उससे डर भी लगता है
Correct.
लेकिन वो करनी भी है ना?
Absolutely. But
तो
yeah, excited,
या मैन,
excited about the future for sure.
amazing. So I mean, I think, yeah, we have discussed a lot about a lot of things. coming from your childhood to how you started your company. Moving on to the last question, what is your message to the budding entrepreneurs, जो लोग इंस्पायर हो रहे हैं आप जैसे लोगों को देख के, उनके लिए क्या एक मैसेज आप दोगे?
Yeah, I would say it's very simple that आप बड़ा सोचो, because काम करने वाले लोग दुनिया में बहुत कम है, राइट? सो आपका कंपटीशन बिलियंस ऑफ पीपल नहीं है, वो बहुत ही कम, लाइक 0.0001% लोग हैं जिनके अंदर काम करने का इंटेंट है एंड उसको परस्यू करने का हंगर है, राइट? सो आई थिंक योर कंपटीशन इज विद ओनली दोज पीपल. सो इफ यू रियली आर हंग्री, then just focus on building and just remember कि आप घोड़े हो. You have to drive everything, right?
Yes.
Like you can't wait for somebody else to really move the needle for you. आपको ही needle move करना है, and constantly focus on reducing the number of unknowns you have in life. And आप बस उतना कर लोगे ना, उतना आप मेरे लिए कर लो and then उसके बाद का आप खुद के लिए कर लोगे.
वाह.
So I think that can really help people grow in a very significant manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think not just for young people, ये जो आपका जो आपने राय दी है इस समय, ये हर किसी के लिए एट एनी एज दिस इज
Absolutely, yeah.
हाँ, ये काम आएगी. एंड इसी के साथ साथ हम आज का जो एपिसोड है अर्जुना पीस ऑफ माइंड का यहीं पे खत्म करते हैं.
Awesome, यार. We'll see you next time again. बहुत मजा आया.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
bro.
for
See you.
hosting me again. Yeah. Take care.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, bro. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. तो इसी के साथ खत्म करते हैं हमारा आज का एपिसोड ऑफ अर्जुना पीस ऑफ माइंड. ये वाला पॉडकास्ट आप स्पॉटिफाई पे भी सुन सकते हैं. आई होप यू लाइक्ड इट. चैनल पे अगर आप नए हैं तो सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलना. सी यू सून विद अनदर इंटरेस्टिंग पर्सनालिटी.